So the first thing is to think about what is demonstrated interest. It's kind of a buzzword. It's something that you hear a lot in terms of the college process. And what it is showing enthusiasm or curiosity about a school during the application process. It's a way for universities to track different contacts with students to predict if it's likely that those students are going to enroll. Universities are really concerned about not just their admit rate, but also how many of those students decide to come, which is their yield. And that part goes into the US News and World Report and into a lot of other reportings. And so it's something that schools are really concerned about. And so demonstrated interest has sort of risen in importance as students are really trying to not only, predict their yield, but also have a better yield. For the most part, in terms of the schools that really take demonstrated interest seriously, it's typically smaller private schools versus the UC schools or University of Wisconsin or some of these other big schools. And our goal today is just to show you a little bit about how you can demonstrate interest and why it is important.
So when we're thinking about schools that consider demonstrated interest, there's kind of varying levels, very important, and considered in their admissions process. Very important, the schools that are on the list of very important actually factor that in when they are making admissions decisions. How much research has the student done? Have they visited, and they really take that demonstrated interest to heart when they're talking about students and trying to determine whether or not they will be admitted. If the schools fall within the important range, then I would say it's kind of a step down from obviously very important. They're still looking at whether or not you've demonstrated interest or have shown research in the college, but it's not going to hold as much weight as the schools who consider it very important. And then if a school simply considers it, it's just one of the many data points that they're using trying to gauge an applicant's fit for that school.
So in terms of how to find out who values demonstrated interest, you can always ask. If you're there, you can ask them. A lot of the schools are very upfront about how demonstrated interest is used in the process. Some of them are a little bit cagey, right? They'll say that, it's really not that big of a factor, and then we'll look it up, and the published information will show that it is a big factor. So there's something that we talk about a lot, which is called the common data set, and every university is required to have one. And so this particular one is for American University, and there is a part of the common data set that talks about what they're looking for in their applicants, and it has things that are very important, considered, and not considered. And what we see here with American University is that the rigor of the secondary school, which most schools think is very important, along with academic GPA, and then actually level of applicants' interest, which is the idea of you need to demonstrate that interest, but it is very important to them. In a little bit, we'll talk about different ways to actually demonstrate interest, but if you want to figure out if a particular school, it's really important to visit that school, or that you need to meet the rep or things like that, this is a great place to go to the common data set for whatever schools you're the most interested in. So one of the big ways to demonstrate interest is to just go, right? To plan a visit, to go see the university. Because what that's saying is I'm willing to travel to visit, which means I'm willing to travel to go. I think it's interesting, since we are in California and Northern California, that there's a lot of schools in the Midwest and the East where students will go through the process and they think they're pretty interested in things like that, but they never go to visit. And then, quite frankly, it falls off their list. They decide they get into someplace closer. lot of California kids like to stay in California. So you need to reach out and show these universities that you're willing to go, that you want to learn more about the universities, that that it's someplace that you're really, really considering. So you can go to the admissions page of any university and look for an admissions rep. And for that, if you can't go and visit in person, you can think about what your questions are and you can actually ask them in person. We also have something in our office that's called the regional admissions counselors, and those are all the universities that have an admissions rep here in California or on the West. They're actively recruiting students that are outside of California. And that's another way that you can demonstrate interest. It's always important to be pretty thoughtful in terms of the questions that you're going to ask. And you don't want to be asking super obvious questions like, hey, do you have a political science major? Because that would take you literally 10 seconds to figure out on Google. So what it is using this as an opportunity for you to better know the university and be thoughtful about the questions that you're asking, and at the same time to be demonstrating interest. So regional reps will travel, admissions officers travel, and if you're staying local, you can go to some of these different places, or you can even send a note to the admissions officer and say, hey, are you going to be in town? I don't see that you're on the list of coming to my high school.
Yeah, and then another way to show some demonstrated interest, if you can't travel to all of these places, because it does get quite expensive if you're looking, across the United States, is attending our local college fairs. But I will say, before you attend, it's really important to kind of be prepared, because they can be quite overwhelming. So the first tip that we have is to just organize yourself for the college fair. Register for the fair, download a map, circle any colleges that you haven't visited and visit those booths first, and then prioritize colleges where demonstrated interest is important. That's how you can be strategic about that. So if they track demonstrated interest and you go to those places and introduce yourself, sign in at the table, that's a great way to kind of say, hey, I attended this college fair and learned more about your school. And then for each of the colleges, prepare to meet the actual admissions rep. Write down questions that are specific for each college, ask about new majors, new buildings, show initiative that you've done some research about the college before you've actually attended the event. And that way the admissions representative and you can get the most out of your conversation. And then we always suggest that a student follow up afterwards if you have additional questions, or if that particular person took a lot of time out of their session to speak with you, following up with a thank you note or a thank you email, just to say, hey, we really appreciate all the time that you've taken for me. So if you're going to attend the college fairs, just make sure that you prep a little bit to get the most out of those 2 hours.
And I would say something that we haven't addressed, but we probably will at the end, but it's important to note that highly, highly selective schools don't actually really care about your demonstrated interest in a lot of cases, because there's so many kids that are so interested. I mean, if you want to have a good time, you can go see and talk to Harvard and see what the line is like at the college fair. That's not the best use of your time. They know everybody is interested in Harvard. They're going to assume that if you get in, you're probably going to go. So this is really something when you're looking at some of those target schools and not looking at those uber selective schools. And that's where it tends to make the biggest difference.
And some of the upcoming college fairs in our area, even over the summer and into the fall, are listed here. So if you just click on the link, you can register for these college fairs. And the Colleges That Change Lives Fair would be an excellent one to go towards. They have a lot of target mid-range schools that aren't super selective, but are in like that next tier of colleges that really care about their yield. And it would be a great place for students to show demonstrated interest. If you're the fall WACAC dates, they haven't really announced those yet, only in Reno, so I'm not sure if they're coming to our area, but those actually happen in the spring often. So in junior year or sophomore year, end in the spring, those would be a great place to check that link out. And then there's actually a performing and visual arts fair in our area where they can check out your portfolio, talk to you about auditions and things like that. So if you wanted some feedback before you actually applied, or if you're a junior prepping to apply to some of these schools, these are a great way to kind of show that demonstrated interest if you can't get to each of those colleges. And then there's a STEM fair in Santa Clara in October. So just some upcoming events that are coming to our area. And then another great way to show demonstrated interest is to actually attend the college visits at your high school. If your high school uses Naviance and your counselors utilize that for college visits, I just threw a screenshot up here of what it would look like, the interface to register for a college visit. You can simply click on the colleges tab in the right-hand side, search for a school, and see when the regional representatives will be at your high school. A lot of times it's limited due to space. So I would say maybe in August, September, check the college list and see which schools are coming to your college and or which schools are coming to your high school, register for the event, and then actually attend the event and sign in. Just some tips when the regional admissions reps are here is to make sure that you maybe come prepared with a few questions at the end of the event if you have time to introduce yourself and, just say, thank you for the presentation if you have any follow-up questions. And then again, you can send a little note just thanking them for their time. And another way to show this demonstrated interest is to actually do this research of your university. So sign up for the college newsletter, or in this case, American University has you open a portal, a Future Eagle portal. You can go under freshman applicants or prospective undergraduate students and on each of the websites and see what they have there for you. So if you want to learn more about the school, actually registering on their website and signing up for those newsletters is a great way to kind of get the most up-to-date information on new programs or study abroad or student life, so you can maximize that why us question.
Okay, so, the pinnacle of demonstrating interest is applying to a school early decision, right? Because if you apply early decision, you're telling them if you get admitted, you will go. They don't have to worry about the yield at all. So what we start to do and go through with students starting in sort of August, looking at their college list, is looking at the schools that are the most interesting to them and what their policies are and what their numbers are. What percentage of the class are they filling early decision? That's something that a lot of families really need to think about sort of on the beginning part of the process in terms of, is that something that's right for your family? But it certainly is something that shows, this is my top choice, because you obviously are saying that you will go if you get in. There's also early action, right, which is non-binding. It's a chance to get your application in early and just to shows that you're a proactive student and that this school is at the higher part or top of your list because you were willing to put the effort in on the early side. So it doesn't necessarily give you a huge boost, but I think in a lot of ways it shows that you're a student who's ready to go to college and kind of knows what they want. There's also restrictive early action, which means that it's not binding. You don't have to go, but you can only apply to one restrictive early action school. So in a way, you're giving up all of your other early action options. So you're saying this is a school that's really important to me. And I'm willing not to do those other applications early. So there is a little bit of, it shows intention behind it that the school is your first choice. There's also early decision too. So sometimes there's students who choose a particular school early decision 1 and it doesn't work out the way that they want, or they do an early action and it doesn't turn out the way that they want. And so there's this opportunity to do early decision 2, which again is binding. So you are demonstrating that this is your top choice. Another way to demonstrate interest is to really complete the supplement and complete it well. There are supplements that are required that will ask very specific questions to students about why they want to attend a school. If you can really do a thoughtful and well-written response to that, that is actually demonstrating interest. It's saying, I did my homework to know that these are the 3 perfect reasons why I should go to American University. The other thing is that there are schools that have optional supplemental questions. American is one of them. And also, University of Oregon, there's a lot that are out there. And simply by choosing to answer those questions and putting in the effort, even though they're optional, if you do them, you are saying, I care enough about this school to write an additional essay. And that can mean a lot for for students, and just being able to tell the school and do the work. They really think that that's a great idea. So something else that students can do is check and register for interviews. It's something that typically comes out in the fall, so you want to check the websites in the fall. And you want to check it for every school that you're seriously interested in. And you want to see what their interview policy is. A lot of times you will have to be proactive and register for a date, or sometimes they only do them on campus, so it might be a good time for you to plan a visit. It's something that actually changes from year to year. There's a lot of schools that are dropping interviews, and then a lot of schools that are adding. So it's something that you want to go to and really research on the front end, and that we have all of our students do that. But taking the extra effort to, figure out the process and to be a part of that interview process is a way of demonstrating interest.
And then our last tip, but not least, is to follow the college on social media. If they have Twitter, you can follow them on Twitter. If they have Instagram and Facebook pages, you can go ahead and do that. And following your top college blogs. Tufts, for example, has excellent blogs written by their admissions officers, and they're an excellent resource for everything from writing your best essay, how to make a meaningful summer, how Tufts students get involved, and kind of what they're looking for. So as you go on to research the college's websites, also take note if they have Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. Those are great little tidbits of how you can get an idea for the social climate, as well as new academic programs that are coming out on each of those campuses.
So we're going to leave you with the top 10 ways to show demonstrated interest. Visiting the college and taking a tour. Now, we know that that's not feasible for everybody due to time, due to money, but it is a very good way to demonstrate interest. If you can't do that, you can reach out to the local admissions representative. You can attend a college fair. You can attend a college visit when they come to your high school. And in fact, I think students are often surprised that those are not as well attended as they think. So they might be one of 3 students, which means you get a one-on-one to ask all your questions with the admissions rep. And typically the one that is traveling to your school is the one that's going to read your application. You can subscribe to universities' email lists and actually read the emails and click through them. Believe it or not, they are using customer service software so that they know how many times you click in and where you click in. It was a really big deal a couple of years ago when people weren't kind of so clued in on this piece. I would say it's not a deciding factor in most cases how many times you click into their website. But the point is if you're willing to go to their website and click through and spend time there, right, you are demonstrating interest. You're saying that I'm willing to put in this extra time to be researching this school. Spend time on their websites. Think about the YS question and really think about the deeper level of that. It's not to do with their weather. It's not necessarily to do with their location, because there's other colleges that fit the bill for those. But why is this particular school really important to you, and why is it at the top of your list? Applying early action, early decision, answering those optional essay questions, sign up for the optional interviews with alumni or admissions representatives if they're offered, and following the college on social media. So And the deal is you don't have to do all 10 for all 10 schools on your list. You need to be kind of strategic on these. And the first and foremost would be trying to figure out how important it is in the process. So that is your take on demonstrated interest. We hope you've learned something. If you want a little bit more about what to specifically do on a college visit, definitely check out our other video about college visits.